Greatest challenges facing public libraries. The three greatest challenges facing public libraries over the next 5 years are equity of access, literacy and learning, and advocacy. Equity of access means that all people are entitled to have access to the information they need regardless of age, education, race, income, language, physical limitations, or geographic barriers. But in practice, many of those things are real barriers, and public libraries are the best means of combating those barriers because the vast majority of the services they provide are free. Literacy and learning are far more than the ability to decode text. In an increasingly digital world, it also means facility navigating the interconnected digital world for information and for everyday life. Public libraries provide free access to and training with technology and more. Advocacy is critical because public libraries get the vast majority of their funds from local government sources. Therefore, unless stakeholders who distribute funding understand all of the vital services that libraries provide, they may not understand the funding needs of the library. Equity of access encompasses many things. Getting to the library can be a significant barrier. Not everyone has a car or bus service. Not everyone is sufficiently mobile to travel to the library. Those with commutes may find it challenging to get to the library when it is open. Libraries address some of these issues with bookmobiles, delivery services, pop-up libraries in underserved communities, library services in other well-trafficked locations such as laundromats or YMCAs. But the need is still there for more. Libraries can work with local government and school districts to ensure that public transportation stops nearby, that school bus routes include stops at local libraries. There is a perception that everything is on the internet for free and that everyone has a cell phone. Although many people do have cell phones, not everyone has a smartphone, not everyone has internet access at home, and not everyone with internet access has high-speed internet. High-speed internet access, or the lack thereof, impacts many people regardless of their socioeconomic status. In less urban areas, residential high-speed internet is either non-existent or expensive. According to the Federal Communication Commission's latest Broadband Progress Report, 19 million Americans still lack access to broadband internet services. 14.5 million of them live in rural areas where 25% of the population lack access. Even people who have access do not necessarily partake. 100 million Americans don't subscribe even though they live someplace with access to broadband. Public libraries provide free access to the internet, to computers for using the internet, and many check out mobile hotspots and devices so that patrons have this functionality at home. Although most libraries offer both wireless internet and computers, not all libraries offer Wi-Fi outside of the library or outside of library hours. In some cases, safety issues are a concern, but in others, perhaps policies are not keeping up with community needs. Finally, in order to provide more materials to patrons, libraries must be able to afford the materials. As libraries move from physical to digital technology, they also move from ownership to licensing, which changes what libraries are able to do with the materials in their collections. Libraries can mend, copy, rebind physical materials, but electronic sources cannot be shared. A 2012 Harvard University memo to its faculty about the increasingly untenable costs of subscriptions to academic journals shocked the academic world, but the potential cost of digital information impacts more than just scholarship and research. As public libraries increase their digital holdings, they too are governed by licensing agreements of publishers and restricted by the selections of streaming services which are not curated by library staff. Libraries need to consider involvement with open access databases. It is a challenge to keep up with information and technology explosion. Libraries engage beyond traditional text literacy into other forms of literacy. They offer technology training, resume workshops, financial literacy programming, and food literacy programs, among other things. In order to successfully lead programs on alternative literacies, librarians must educate themselves and their staff members, which requires both time and funding. It behooves us all to be aware of what training opportunities are available and to make it a priority to invest in staff members. Lifelong learning is the key to longer, healthier, more satisfying lives. And we also have a need for adult literacy programs. Without advocacy, there are no libraries. Advocacy is critical because the vast majority of funding for public libraries comes from public funds, and unless the stakeholders who distribute funds understand the many services that libraries provide, they may look to cutting budgets for agencies whose contributions are not obvious. This includes public libraries. Public libraries are consistently being asked to do more with less, so it is vital they let the community and government officials know what they do and how that benefits the community. This is particularly important as growing economic disparity continues to shrink the middle class and increase the need for the many free services and programs provided by public libraries. Information professionals must advocate for all the things that libraries do, are, and provide, so the stakeholders of funding understand their value and continue to fund them. Quote, libraries are increasingly society's only serious attempt to bridge the digital divide that threatens to deny the advantages of the brave new technological world to the poor, the rural, the armies of the unemployed, and all the others whose noses are pressed up against the windows of the glittering salons of the digerati, unquote, says Gorman in his book. As an information professional, it is my duty to stay aware and up to date on what libraries are doing, the issues they are facing, and how they are dealing with them by networking with colleagues both locally and regionally, by seeking out colleagues with experience and expertise to learn from, by reading articles and blog posts and attending workshops, meetings, and conferences. There's a wealth of resources available on the websites of professional organizations to which we have been introduced during this course, all of which bear further investigation, as the information each contains will become more meaningful as those resources move from theoretical to practical. The American Library Association's joint membership program provides an excellent opportunity to join both ALA and the South Carolina Library Association at reduced cost. I will also contemplate memberships to one or two of the organizations aligned with my particular interests. I am particularly appreciative of the way YALSA breaks advocacy points down into contributions based on how much time one is willing to spend. Successful information professionals will take advantage of training and educational opportunities offered by places of employment and professional organizations. In particular, I would like to bolster my presentation skills by writing blog posts, book reviews, teaching training classes as appropriate, and presenting at conferences. Access for people with disabilities can be limited. Providing materials that compensate for other abilities requires thought, knowledge of the demographics of not just library users, but the community of not yet users, and successful marketing to let users know what is available to them. Gorman recommends going beyond the minimal requirements of the Americans with Disabilities Act when building and renovating libraries, particularly, quote, by consulting with library users with disabilities, unquote.